Hi, everyone, and welcome to the HYPACK 2021 software webinar. My name is Brittany Hines, Marketing Specialist here at HYPACK, and I will be your host for today's presentation. Before we begin, I just want to remind you about the question box on the side of your screen. We will be taking questions at the end of the webinar, so please submit them using the question dropdown. Also, if you're unable to hear us or the screen goes blank, please comment in the chat box so we can fix the issue. For today's webinar, we are going to show you all the new features and updates in our HYPACK 2021 version. Our presenters for today's presentation are John Lindberg, QC Manager at HYPACK, and Rob Baird from HYPACK Technical Sales. They both bring great experience and expertise to our company, and we're very happy to have them here with us today to talk more about the HYPACK 2021 software release. So with that, I am going to turn over the presentation to Mr. Rob Baird.
Well, thank you, Brittany. Now, John, every time we get the chance to premiere the newest features of our latest HYPACK version, it always brings me back to the days in tech support when we would have our meetings, and you then, as manager of tech support, would bring up, okay, what should we be doing new? What can we do next year in HYPACK such and such, whatever version it was. It was always driven by the calls to tech support and by our users telling us exactly what they wanted. So here, all these years later, we're still talking about it in a different way and discussing what is new. So with that, I'd like to introduce our quality control manager, John Lindberg, to take us through what's new in HYPACK 2021.
Thanks, Rob. Like I said, a lot of the stuff that we do is customer driven. We're always looking to improve the software in some way, make it a little bit easier as we move along. And that was our goal in HYPACK 2021, to add some new features here, make things a bit easier. And as we move along, that's our idea. It's just ergonomics and again, very customer driven. So for anybody that's not familiar yet with HYPACK 2021, we released it February 1st of this year. You can go right up to our website, HYPACK.com, and go to the program updates and download it and install it. Anybody can install it, but unless you are on the maintenance plan, you won't be able to run it. You would have to upgrade your maintenance plan in order to run HYPACK 2021. And I'm going to focus on that, but just as a note, on HYPACK 2021, I should say, as a note, the Q1 update is expected around April 1st. It's May 11th. I mean, I should say March 11th already. So a few more weeks will be making the Q1 update available. Okay, one of the things we, and this is very customer driven, folks were asking, how can I make a project really quick and get through it? We have a lot of customers that are not exactly hydrographers. If you run through a lot of software packages, you can follow your way along through most of the programs, through the main HYPACK shell, for example. Relatively easy to follow along, but it's certainly not easy for a lot of people too, especially we're just trying to make it a little bit more user-friendly for folks to basically look at the screen and just try to follow along. So what we did in 2021, when you first launch it, it will launch this project wizard. You can also launch it from the file drop-down menu, as I did. And it's going to prompt you for, first of all, to, by default, create a new project, load an existing project if you already have HYPACK, an older version of HYPACK, or your project's installed on your computer, or copy an existing project. So right now I'll just concentrate on the create new project, and basically just follow the directions. So again, this is the first thing that's going to pop up for the user. So we'll click on next. We'll give it a name. Let's call this, it's March 2021, not May, correct? And let's hit a name, and I'll click on next. And the next thing that pops up are the Geodesy settings. A lot of people are really overwhelmed with Geodesy, especially some of the engineers or folks that are just kind of concentrating on environmental stuff, or they're just out there, they just want to measure how much water is in a pond, for some reason, they don't really care about whether you're working in UTM or state plane or whatever. So we're trying to cater a bit more to them. It's just making a very simple decision here. And I think the majority of customers are using either state plane or UTM. So that was the idea here. And we're going to add more based on customer comments and suggestions over the course of the year to make things even simpler. But in this example, I'm just going to create a project with the state plane, NAT 83, Connecticut. That's because that's where I'm located. Keep it simple. If I click on other, you'll see I have a drop-down menu where I can pick any of the other grids that we have in Geodesy. Okay, now I do have an advanced settings button here where I can just go right into my regular geodetic parameters, and it's my standard Geodesy window dialog where I could go in here and get crazy and start playing around.
This is great for power users. Oh, John, sorry. This is great for power users, but the basic user, the beginner, doesn't want to see so many options. It can be a little daunting to look at geodetic parameters.
Exactly. So yeah, I got Connecticut, US survey foot. Let's click next. Okay. The next is just a display of your hardware settings. So the idea here is just to verify that you've got your devices set up the way you wanted for the next projects. That is, if you've if you're starting from scratch, by default, it's just going to have your Halifax drivers listed there, which is probably a telltale sign that that's not what you want to use for your projects. Okay, so I can go in here also, click on Edit Settings and go into the hardware program, see my existing drivers, change those if I want. The main screen here is just displaying what is currently available in this project. Okay, so once I'm done with that, click on Finish, and then I'm good to go. Okay. All right,
John, I think about how many times we got calls in tech support where already the user was in trouble before they ever started their project, before they started dredging or surveying. They didn't know it, but they had already brought in an old incorrect setting in Geodesy, or a bad driver in HYPACK hardware, or the setting was wrong and they didn't know it, and they brought it in from a previous project. So here's a template to get that user through these road bumps at the beginning as you're setting up your projects.
Right, Robbie. I would say the most common things, mistakes, are probably Geodesy and hardware, right? For the most part.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And this is just a way, and we'll revamp and tweak it as we move along, as we get more information and feedback from customers. Okay, so the next thing is the project colors. We did a big change here. I think we started with it last year, and we've been refining it over the course of the year. We're even making more changes to try to make it even more user friendly. But for a long time, the project colors were set up where we had these palette selections. We've had that option there for, geez, maybe 8-9 years or something, and it wasn't very user friendly. The additional palettes really didn't do anything. We just realized that customers really just want to go in, pick a color palette, and we just decided to do that, since we all save these color palettes in what we call HCF or HYPACK color files. Just select the color file that you want and you're good to go. So if I went into a project, we go into, New London test sounds good. Okay, quite a few things we've changed around here. You can right-click right on the color bar, and then I could either select a color table. So if I had already created a whole bunch of HCF files from previous projects, they're going to be stored and displayed right under the project listing over here. I can also save a bunch of HCF files. When we install HYPACK, it creates a HYPACK store folder on your C drive. And then there's a shared folder in there for color files. So we can store them in there, and they'll be accessible to all your projects, which is kind of a nice feature. So I could go in here, highlight the different color files that I have listed, and you'll see them change. I can also click on edits, modify one of these if I want, save as a different name. Oops. Let me go back here, edit, file, save. And I have the option to save in the default project folder, or I can save in the shared folder, which is a really nice feature. So this is one of the new options that we've added. And You look here on the screen on the bottom right, you can also assign these HCF files to different XYZ files or matrix files. For example, you might have different XYZ files. You might just want to have a different, your range based on the bottom of the channel. And you might have 2 different channel depths within your area. So you might have your color files set up based on those depths. So it's just a matter of right-clicking on that XYZ file, assign a color, and you're good to go. It'll display that accordingly.
This will be great for dredgers that want to see like a difference file, you know, instead of just seeing the absolute depth or elevation of their dredge work that they've done. They might want to see a difference file, you know, dredge versus template, etc. There's a bunch of different Z values that they might want to see, and now they can assign different color tables to each.
Definitely, yeah. Okay, let's go on to locked licenses. This is a feature that we added somewhere around Q2, Q3 of last year, and it's now part of the HYPACK 2021 release. Basically, what this is doing is it's taking the license off of your HYPACK key, the dongle that you have plugged in, the USB dongle that's plugged onto the side, and then moving it right to your computer. I don't know if physically is the right word to say because it's all, you know, X's and O's and stuff. But anyway, what you do is, and I'll show you really quick, if I go into HYPACK, go under Settings, License Manager. This is just going to take a second to load up. Okay, you're looking at all my key information. I can go under File, click on Lock License. Okay, you'll see we got a big disclaimer over here, giving you some warnings. You know, just you want to check the box saying that you've agreed to this. Now, what you're gonna have to do is contact support, and you're gonna get a code like this from them. Basically, you supply them with your key number. In return, they'll send you the code. You just enter the code right here. You can grab this code right now. It's not gonna help you because it's not gonna, you know, if you think you're gonna steal my code, enjoy, but it's not going to work. So, well, I just put my code in here, click on Move License from Key to Computer. And then it's going to pop up this little notification, license locked successfully. So that license is locked to this computer. Now I can take the dongle off, put it in a safe place, and you're going to need it if you update your license file with either the maintenance plan update or you upgrade, say, from HYPACK Lite to HYPACK. So you're always going to need that key, so don't lose it. So in order to do that, to upgrade it, what I had to do is just unlock it. So go back to File, click on Unlock License, and it's taking that license, moving it from the computer right to the key. Okay, so now I've got my license back on the key. Now there is a caveat here, is that you can't lock it to another computer. You can only lock to a specific to one specific computer. So choose wisely. Okay. All right. The next thing I wanted to go over is the 3D hardware program. This is something that we've added again late last year, and it's part of HYPACK 2021. And the idea here is that we have a nice looking 3D display. I was over in the UK a few years back, and somebody suggested this during one of the presentations that I had done, and it's like, oh, that's a great idea. It took us a while to get to this point, but we're pretty happy with the way it's come out, and we'll probably add more to it as we move along. But let me go into a project first. HYPACK 3D hardware. Okay, screen is kind of blank, but you'll get an idea of what it looks like here. So I'll click on the hardware program. And let me see if I can bring that up a little bit bigger so it covers the entire screen. Now, if I click on boat and then click on offsets, I've got a shape drawn on in here. Right now, it's currently using the HYPACK 3OD shapes, which are created in the 3D shape editor. By default, there's a shape that we're storing in the boat shapes folder, or the shapes folder, I should say, in HYPACK. It's this kind of fancy looking shape over here. And then, as you can see, I've got a bunch of devices on the upper left-hand corner. and then I'm seeing all the devices relative to their offsets on the main vessel. So I can go in here. The reset view just kind of sets you back to looking down on your vessel. I can also go to the boat shape options here. So this shows the shape that I'm using for my main vessel. Again, it's a 3OD shape. I can adjust the position. So if the shape is not based on my center of origin, I can enter the center of origin XYZ in the file. I can also change rotation and also scales of these. So if my boat shape is too small, I can go in here, or too big, and make the adjustments. Okay, let me go back to 1, 1, 1. Okay, and then each device has a shape associated with it. I kept it really simple. These arrow shapes are standard shapes that are in that folder. And then I went into the 3D shape editor and made a couple simple, like a GPS antenna shape for the GPS position. This has a Velodyne, little puck. So I used a cylinder type shape for that. Use a cylinder shape for the TSS MRU. I think they're still cylinder shapes as far as I know. And just used a little cube for a gyro. So if you go into each device, you'll see that under the offsets, I can go in here and change my shapes. Okay. And then as I change my offsets, I can increase.
That's quite the development, John.
Sorry, Rob?
That's quite the development. It's very sleek to be able to see your offsets now in 3D. We used to all the time hear requests from people to can you take a look at my offsets? There's something wrong. There's something clearly wrong here. Look, we have some motion in our data. And now you can really have the warm fuzzies while you're still on your survey vessel. You're looking at it, and sure enough, oh yeah, I had my GPS on the wrong side. You won't have that forward and aft type of question, starboard and port offsets, which are positive, which are negative. It's very much intuitive now, right in front of us.
Definitely, yeah. And as far as the shapes go too, let me just double check here. But yeah, this will take the 3DS shape. So if you have like an AutoCAD 3DS shape, you could bring that shape into here also. And we're also adding, we'll be adding the OBJ files, more on that a little bit later as a function in here, because we've also added the OBJ files to be drawn into real-time cloud. Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to show here, we added the feature, we had this feature years ago. You can actually assign, if you have multiple mobiles, you can right click on, I'll show you on the screen over here. Right click on a device if you have multiple mobiles and move that device to another mobile. This we lost this feature a number of years ago when we revamped the hardware program, and it comes in handy, for example, with dredges, or you might be using a USBL system. You've added a bunch of devices to your main boat shape and forgot to create a mobile. So now it just makes it easy just to right click, move to the mobile of your choice.
Yeah, those vessels of opportunity that you never know what type of survey they're going to be doing. One day it's side scan, another day it's a mag, single beam, whatever it might be. You might have a lot of different mobiles for your various hardware configurations.
Right, and then yeah, definitely. And then the final thing is that we all these devices, we also decided to create a page that shows all the offsets on one page, and this is really helpful too, because it's just, visually you can see all your, you can look at all your offsets you haven't written on a sheet already. Just verify that everything is entered properly, and then you're good to go. Okay. And then one more thing we added to the 3D hardware program, for all you eHydro Army Corps users, we've added this eHydro devices button, where you could just enter. It's designed. eHydro is the Army Corps wide tool where all the data for all the ports and channels and everything is all submitted and everything, and they require certain metadata information to be uploaded also. And this eHydro buttons brings up this dialog, as you're seeing over here, that you just enter the device that you're using. for this survey. So you've got your multi-beam sensors. If you're doing single beam, you got vertical beam sensor, side scan, your attitude and positioning equipment, sound velocity, and so on. And all this information gets saved to a text file, and this information gets passed. It gets stored in the HSX files, the metadata information gets passed into MBMax64, and then final to the metadata file. All that information gets passed and stored right through to the end. So this is a big project I've been working to make life a lot easier for the Army Corps folks and passing this information into eHydro. Right.
Yeah, we've seen it through the years. Every district has their own set of metadata that they used to want to have, and now it's going to be more standardized.
Definitely, that's been a big issue, and that was the whole idea, I believe, of eHydro, is to standardize a lot of these surveys and the information. So just even one more step forward to standardization, which is really helpful. Okay, Rad Survey, code name Rad Survey. It's a if you look at it, it looks very similar to our current survey. You can actually launch this in HYPACK. It's under the, let me bring it up here. If you go under the survey drop-down menu and go under beta, first let me get into a project that I'll do the simple Halifax project here. And go under survey, beta. Now you can launch the Rad Survey or HYPACK survey, or Rad Survey with high sweep and so on, if you're doing multi-beam surveys. But if you look at it, it looks very similar to our current survey program. Well, this is the next generation survey program. It's written in a different programming language. The old, what we call the current survey program, is very older code base. It's a little harder to keep up with new changes. So the new Rad Survey that we're calling it is gives us a lot more flexibility in terms of adding new features and stuff. So it's basically going to be survey of the future. If you notice, there's the big differences are really the icons, but if you can run the standard HYPACK survey, you'll have no issues here. You know, just hover your cursor over the icon, it'll give you the information if you're unsure. And the other thing that we did is that we've combined a few options like the dialog boxes. So if I click on the settings for the map, I've got a few tabs here that I can access everything in one shot rather than searching around for the different boxes. We made a couple changes to the navigation parameters. I like this one. If you have a line file loaded, you can just hit the drop-down menu and pick the next line. Of course, you can just type it in here also, but it's just one less chance of making a mistake or making a typo. Just select the line that you want to start with. So that's Rad Survey. And again, that's accessible under the survey drop-down menu, and you can run it from the beta item. Close out of that. Okay, now we're going to get on to device drivers. We've made a few changes to some of our standard device drivers. The most common, of course, is the GPS DLL. Almost everybody has a GPS. So what we did is we cleaned up the setup dialog. That was multiple tabs, which were a little bit pain to follow along with. You know, if you make a change in one tab, you might have to try to remember to make it in another, and so on. We just put everything on one dialog right now. Just make it a lot simpler, a little bit cleaner. Hopefully a little easier to follow along. You've got your alarms, you got your statuses, and the main thing is the GPS status codes. Now we have the option for Nema, which just uses your standard Nema options. If I uncheck that, you can put in your custom codes. Occasionally some have like location RTK and it's a code 13 or something like that. So I would just uncheck Nema and we'll consider that fixed RTK. So I'll just type in 13 where it says fixed RTK over here and I'm good to go. We also changed the interface a little bit. We're doing this common interface for all our position device drivers to look similar to what you see here on the left-hand side. Just a little bit cleaner look and a lot more information. Okay. POSMV driver, another very popular driver for the Planix POSMV units out there, INSs. Again, a similar interface that we saw before in Survey. We simplified the setup a little bit more. We removed a couple of the useless options. There were a couple like use the heave from either group 102 or group 111. Well, group 111 is true heave, and you shouldn't be using that in real time anyhow. We basically got that confirmation from a Planix, so we got rid of that. And also there was an option to use the frame information from group 1 rather than 102. And if you notice that, you know, at the bottom here it says please configure POS to output groups 3, 7, 10, 20, 102. We don't even mention group 1 here, or 111 for that matter. So we just decided, well, keep it simple and get rid of those extra options there. Okay. SVG driver has been really popular too, the SVG DLL for the SVG family of INS systems. We use them on our payload, the little ellipse, and we've also used it on the Nexus, and it's pretty common, fairly inexpensive INS system. It works with those. It works with the Apogees and their other higher end unit also. Again, we've kind of give it a nicer interface here, and we gave it a lot more alarm options per request on some customers that use this quite often. So again, this one has been upgraded too. Definitely worthy of noting. The GenDev Parse DLL. We did some modifications to this about mid last year. We added this functionality of adding SMI records. If you're not familiar with those, SMI stands for Special Marine Instrument. And basically, if you're familiar with HYPACK, and especially like generic drivers, you can only parse 2 quote unquote depths, okay, for processing in single beam editor, for example. We decided to add this marine instrument mostly for environmental sensors, where there could be, you know, more than 2 sensors being output by this device. You know, might have, you know, depth, might also have, you know, salinity, temperature, conductivity, and so on. And this will handle up to 32 different items. And the idea is that you can take this information and process it in our MagEdit program. That's the MagEdit program, and I'll discuss that in a little bit, has been more of our tool to process mag data and also this SMI data. Most of the time, you're just concerned about, you know, time series data on the screen. You're not concerned about depth. So it's a very simple way to edit the data and export the information out to, for example, a text file or CSV file. So, and also you can use multiple delimiters on the different strings also. So a nice little change to the GenDev parse.
We expect a lot of people to be using this now, with so many more surveyors asking about water quality information and all the environmental sensors you could possibly bring in. I expect this to be used quite often, and I know that's going to lead into your slides on the mag editor too.
Right, yeah. Yeah, more device drivers. Here we go. We added a new driver for this Sony camera. That's the brand new one. And then we made some changes. The coverage DLL is a nice one of note. If anybody's not familiar with it, it's a nice little tool just to create basically a coverage trail on your screen in Survey. What's nice, that it used to, you know, just it would create a simple dig file. A dig file is a HYPACK digitized format that we call it. It's an ancient format. It goes back to our DOS days, and we replaced it with the DG2 format, which is a bit more robust, has a lot more options. One of the nice features is that you can change the color, and also you can add a color fill to your coverage. So it's just a nice little option here. We also made some changes to the Echo Logger device driver, the Novatel bucket DLL, and also the DQM mechanical DLL. This is nice because it has the option to use the US Digital T7, which has become a pretty common driver. And I believe Rob, we're using that in our new crane box.
Right, the modern HYPACK crane box solution will have a US Digital T7 sensor on it.
And they're pretty much, for a small little sensor, they're pretty indestructible. High sweep survey. So we did some changes in here. One nice feature is that we're actually writing, people that are familiar with our data formats is in our raw, like single beam files, we store a RAW record in there, which is your raw latitude, longitude, ellipsoid height, UTM time. And we've also added that to the HSX file. So HYPACK Survey will write that information to the HSX file. This is a really nice feature because you can take this into, and I'll show you the option, into MB Max later on, and then you can it has a GPS recalc feature. So based on my Geodesy settings, I might have not used the proper geoid model, or if I got to use it or I wanted to use a KTD file, I can recalculate with this raw latitude, longitude, ellipsoid height, and get my proper RTK levels or positions. Really nice feature. We're also logging the eHydro information, as I mentioned earlier, to the HSX files. We've added additional error checks when writing to the HSX. We've had an issue where a customer was logging data. We created an HSX file with no information in it. It turned out they were running out of disk space on their computer. So we put a little warning in there to just kind of keep an eye on if it's if we're starting to lose disk space on the computer. It'll give you a warning in HYPACK. And then we did some additional stuff for dredge monitoring. So that's another new feature that's available in 2021. The Norbit, some of the drivers in HYPACK, the Norbit WBMS, rotator angle information is passed through shared memory. Same with the GPS pass-through. Novotel span for serial span users, it'll pass the information over via UDP shared memory, so you can use it in HYPACK. HYPACK and HYPACK Survey, HYPACK Survey can't share serial ports like you could in HYPACK Survey itself. So this is a way to just pass that information over into HYPACK. And we added new drivers for the LiDARs, this Optec Polaris, the Velodyne VLP32, and the VLP16, also from Velodyne. Okay, moving right along. In the real-time cloud program, people that are using multi-beam are quite familiar with it. It gives a nice cloud, real-time cloud view that runs alongside HYPACK and HYSweep. Usually has a standard boat-shaped vessel that's drawn on the screen. We were able to load our standard HYPACK 3OD files, but we've also added the functionality of bringing in OBJ files. The problem with the OBJ files is that, well, the good thing about it is that they're available all over the web. Just search for OBJ, free OBJ files, and you'll find all kinds of shapes. I'll bring up like a food truck, bring up, or dune buggy or something, or one of the guys did Spider-Man on the screen. So you can download all these. The only problem with some of these OBJ files, they don't have any regard as to what's considered forward or starboard or center of mass or anything. So the Obj Editor that's built in here allows you to modify your OBJ file, as you can see over here on the right-hand side. If you have OBJ files also sometimes have textures, and texture is basically a raster data file, basically like a bitmap type JPEG that pastes the information or overlays it right on top of the OBJ shape. So you get things like your windows or logos of things drawn on your screen. So it's a nice little eye candy option that we added to real-time cloud. We're also going to add the OBJ to 3D hardware over the course of the year, and that's the plan. Okay, now we're getting into MB Max. We've added this little feature. It's a save reminder. We've seen it happen before where folks are editing data. Multi-beam can be a bit time consuming. They're going, editing 4 or 5 hours at a time. All of a sudden they go to lunch. One of the other guys, another department, I need that key for a minute, grabs the key, pulls it off the computer, the HYPACK, the HYSweep key. All of a sudden you can't save anymore. So we pop up this save reminder in HYSweep. You can go under the, there's a save reminder dialog that you can enable it. or disable it. Have it beep if you want, and then just set the time reminder on the screen. We're always hesitant of overwriting people's data, so that's why we haven't actually didn't autosave yet, but that could be something that we can do in the not do this in the future. But this is a good good forewarning, you know, to remember and save your you know, long-earned work there.
Let HYPACK save you from losing your data.
Yeah. And this is the GPS recalc I was mentioning earlier. It's under the Tools drop-down menu. Again, it'll read the HSX file information from the raw records based on your geodesy. If I messed up with my geodesy and set it up incorrectly, use the wrong UTM zone or wrong geoid model KTD file, go reset that in geodesy, open up the dialog, check the boxes here, recalculate positions and or RTK. I can also make my changes to the offsets, click on adjust, and boom, you're out of hell. Okay. Feature detection. This is another one we did per requirement for eHydro. One of the things that they're going to be required is to highlight or save features above the bottom in a text file or CSV file. Okay, and what this is, it's under the Tools drop-down menu. It's a really simple tool where it's basically looking for anything above the bottom surface that might be jutting out a little bit, and even though it might be under your channel depth, it's still wanted as far as a feature to be submitted. So the idea is that it's looking at your matrix cell, taking your maximum depth, and then anything above that maximum depth that you've entered as height above bottom will be marked as a feature, and you have the option to save it, move to the next one. If you can easily ignore the ones that you don't think are considered features, and then finally save it out to the CSV file. So pretty straightforward. Nice little tool to have.
And once again, the Army Corps helping us to drive our development and come to new features for everyone to use, but it's really something that they've brought to our attention.
Yeah, and it's a pretty straightforward tool right now. We can add more functionality as we get more requests and you know, comments from users. Okay, and while on the eHydro kick here is that eHydro metadata. The option to export is in MBMax64 also. Right now we're concentrating on multi-beam. We haven't worked on the single beam stuff yet because this is more or less the big test bed right here. Is once we get this working the way we like it, it'll be really easy to move it over to the single beam realm. So the idea here is that you've got your default survey names that you can drop down. There is a XML file for each district that contains your project areas, your eHydro areas, survey types, and so on, that you would just simply copy onto your computer. So it'll be listed here for the survey name. You've got all your standard metadata information that you just manually enter in here. All this stuff is going to be carried over to your metadata file, your XML metadata file. We're following the ISO 19115 standard. So, you know, we're doing everything we can to just make it a lot easier. It's basically the easy button for eHydro export for you guys. Okay. Also, the option to export targets to the eHydro text format that they want. So I've been hard at work at that. All right. Side scan, we did a lot of internal changes here. I won't spend too much time on this, but as you can see by the picture, if you look at this image, there's quite a few different passes, side scan passes over here. And we did a lot of work in order to clean up, make the overlap look a lot nicer and stuff. So this is just an example of some of the internal improvements that we've done to enhance the mosaics. So that's another bit of functionality that we added here in HyScan.
And certainly an great uptick in quality of the mosaics, and we've seen that these last couple years. So it might not be a new feature as much as it is enhanced quality of your mosaics for your side scan.
Right, exactly. Okay, cloud, we did some changes in here. If you look at it, it's got a brand new interface. We're trying to mimic a bit more of the MBMax 64, SBMax 64 interface. And what's nice is that you can pick multiple files. You have this left-hand panel over here, which lists all the files and information about each one. So I can enable, disable each one. I can assign depths to each one. Really nice, clean interface. It gives you the sounding count for each file. Pretty nice. It's you have the toolbox like you have in MBMax and SBMax, so you can go in and use the tools a lot easier to grab the tools down here and be able to highlight highlight the points that you might want to get rid of or so on. You have some additional tools at the top also that you'll see a little, for example, the rectangle box over here that I'm showing. There's a little drop down area. You can also choose a lasso like you do in MBMax. So you have some different functionality here. There's also a ground truthing report in here where it'll generate statistics when compared to like a bunch of sounding control points that you might have. So you load up your XYZ data set, maybe from a LiDAR, and you want to compare those to the control points. You just run the report. It gives you a nice little statistical report. Nice tool also, a nice option here are these dockable windows. So you can just you can get rid of these windows if you don't want to use them. You can move them along by themselves, or you can make them as tabs, all kinds of different things. Nice functionality. Okay, and then Mag Edit has a new interface too. It's got the dockable windows as Cloud does. It's really cool because I really like the feature where you can, instead of having separate windows, you can have different tabs on the screen. You could dock one of the tabs down below or above if you want, whatever you want. You can have it as a separate window. If you got a whole bunch of monitors, fine, you're good to go. It has a built-in sort and contouring engine in here too. So you see the buttons on the left-hand side, sort and contour. If you click on sort, you have your standard sorting routines. It does a sort. It'll display it right on the screen here. If you like it, you can keep it. It'll save your XYZ file automatically. You can hit the clear sorted button there and redo it. And the same goes for the contours. I could generate the contours and see them draw right on the screen on the fly. If I don't like them, I could go back and recontour. So really nice features here.
Yeah, it's no longer just the magnetometer editor too. There's going to be so many people processing their water quality data here. And now for us to be able to bring these final products right into the editor, you can sort and do some contouring as you're looking at your data. That to me is very impactful.
Yeah, and with the SMI records, you can bring in all these different all this different data in the program. You can choose which one you want to sort, which one you want to clean up, which one I want to. I can display them all in a spreadsheet, as you see over on the right-hand side. I can export them out to text files. So there's a lot of power in Mag Edit.
Yeah, we could easily map any type of data now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then cross sections and volumes. We did a couple changes here, mostly for the beach exports. We added the functionality to export to the Excel format, Microsoft Excel. So it'll save XLS file, I believe it is, automatically. And also, we've added these variable design templates. So for a beach template, you can have multiple segments with different whether they're slopes or flat planes and so on. And what I can do is define for each segment and for each line, if I want, the minimum and maximum design template. So it will calculate information just within those design. So I might want to assign those templates, those min-max values to the slopes, but I might not want to do it on the flat plane areas. Okay, so that's what we're seeing here on the screen. So we're keeping our beach volume folks happy with the tools that we've added in CSV here. Okay, And then the last thing I wanted to bring up is that we've been working with Esri over the past few months too, and we've been working with them as far as bringing the data, finding different ways of bringing the data into Esri, and also bringing Esri data into HYPACK. You know, we can bring in shape files. We've been able to do that for quite a number of years. But the first thing we've added was the export of XYZ data right to the GDB, the Esri Geo database files. We can do that right from the shell. You can right-click on an XYZ file, export to Esri. You just choose the GDB folder and choose the GDB file that you want to export to. So we've added that functionality here in HYPACK, in the shell, and also the cloud. And as we're showing here, there's more to come. We're working really close with Esri and adding a lot more functionality here. So pretty excited about that.
Very excited. Yeah, very excited. Looking forward to these new features as they come out, and the ability to export these XYZs to Esri is not to be understated.
Right. And that's pretty much all I got for today.
Okay,
well, John,
thank you,
we
John.
do have time. Oh, I'm sorry, Brittany. Do we have any time for questions?
We do, yes. We are a little short on time, but we are going to try to answer all of the questions that came in. Just a reminder, if yours do not get answered, we will follow up with you via email over the next few days. So go ahead, John and Rob, we'll answer some questions.
Okay, the first one that we received, John, is we've cleaned up the GPS DLL and others, but there were some redundant tabs, or at least tabs that showed certain features that might not be used as much anymore. One of which was the Nema Standards tab. So how would one select an older Nema Standard, or are you able to select a Nema Standard now with GPS DLL?
Well, the only difference between the two standards was fixed RTK, and this is the GPS mode. So the Nema 2.1 standard had a GPS mode of 3 for RTK. Okay, the
Right.
Nema 3.0 had a code of 4, I think it is, for fixed RTK. So we just
That's right.
have one option, and if it reads a code of 3, it writes. It just gives you a notice of RTK, and if it's 4, it tells you it's fixed RTK. Simple.
And a 5 would give you float, still just the same as before.
Right. And then if you have another
Okay.
custom one, and you can uncheck Nema, and then you just type in whatever value you want.
That's great. The next question is, will eHydro, within all the metadata that's stored in output, will that store device offsets, most specifically your IMU device information and offsets?
Ooh, I couldn't tell you at the moment. I'm not sure if that was part of the spec at the moment. I would say at the moment, probably not, but that might have to come up during one of the Army Corps conversations.
Okay. This is a very interesting question, I find. Which Z value is being used, or stored rather, for feature detection? How are we coming about the Z value that we're storing in feature detection? Is it, are we looking at the first or the least depth, right? The shoaless depth, or how is that coming about?
Right, it's going to be anything above that that value, that bottom value is going to be detected. So as you run through, it's going to scan through every point, so you just click on next, and you just pick the one that you want.
Wow, that's nice and easy.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are, of course, some new standards always coming about, new IHO presentation libraries, etc. Any news on any of these things as they might be implemented into HYPACK, and where we stand on any of them, perhaps?
As far as which one's being implemented?
Well, one specific question was about IHO S44 V6. If and when it will be implemented in HYPACK. And we also have questions about IHO presentation libraries, and if we'll be able to use them. They say there might be some symbols missing currently in HYPACK that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any missing at the moment, but I guess that really depends on customer request and demand. That we'll add that stuff.
Right.
If it's a necessary thing, then we'll get it in there.
Yeah, and so send an email to help@hypack.com on that one. We might not be aware that certain icons are not, operable within HYPACK or present that you'd like. So those requests can go to help@hypack.com.
Correct. Yeah. And we work on a roadmap every year and get what we can in there. Some projects might be a bit too tedious for us to take on at the moment, so it might be a longer term project, but it can be done. So.
And I think the last question we have time for here is, now that all the WGS84 data is going to be written into our HSX files when we're doing multi-beam acquisition, does that mean that there's no longer a need for the raw files, or that it's not being written there? Can you just please clear that up for everybody?
Whoa. I don't think we'll get rid of the raw files. Personally, I'm a pack rat. I would keep the raw files anyway. But the HSX is writing a lot of information in there, and you might want to keep the ones just for QC purposes. You're always going to find some stuff, but it's the same exact RAW record as in the raw file. So, if that's all you're concerned about, just that raw information, then you're good to go. Then there's no need to get the raw files. But the raw files are considerably smaller in terms of size. And like I said, I just have a habit of keeping everything.
Right, and if you're going back to look at your navigation and that alone, you might just go to the raw files, but now knowing that the navigation plus your raw multi-beam records will be stored in the HSX, that's also very valuable.
Yeah.
So once again, thanks, John Lindberg, our Quality Control Manager, again, doing a fantastic job of letting us know what's new in the latest version of HYPACK 2021.
Yes, thank you so much, John and Rob. We are unfortunately out of time, but we want to thank everyone for your participation and hope you enjoyed today's webinar. We will be sending out a copy of this presentation, and we will get in touch with everyone who had unanswered questions over the next few weeks. Again, don't hesitate to contact us. We can be reached at sales@hypack.com, or you can also contact our tech support. And don't forget to check us out on our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn for some upcoming news and updates. So we hope to talk to you guys soon, and have a great rest of the day.